What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Triforce Addiction, and today I have I guess pretty much a mini review of this specific game that I've been playing for a while. And honestly, like, at first I thought this game was going to be like completely like just trash, but it turns out this game's actually pretty fun. So of course you guys heard of the classic old video game called Minecraft that's been out for over 10 years. And you know, it's been like one of the top selling games of all time since pretty much forever. You literally have to be living under a rock your whole life to not know what Minecraft is. Everyone knows it. Your brother knows it, you know it, your mom knows it, your grandma knows it, everyone pretty much knows it. Personally, I started playing Minecraft when I was maybe about 13 to 14 years old. Of course, I knew the game was around since then, but I always thought it was kind of corny. But then I realized that there was Minecraft on the phone. I literally played the Minecraft Pocket Edition. That's what it used to be called back then before it became cross-platform. I played that game like pretty much since day one, like since 0.2.0. I think that version was just like basically bare bones. Like there was infinite durability. The only like stones were just like just regular stones, dirt, and just bricks. So yeah, it was pretty bare bones at that point. And to be honest, it's been a wild ride just seeing how much the game has like pretty much progressed like as these years gone by. You can say a lot of kids back then actually evolved alongside the game, because you know the game was it didn't really have a lot of features back then, but like, you know, now it's pretty amazing. I mean, there's so many things that they added. You know, they added the underwater stuff, they added they're adding a nether update in the coming months, you know, infinite worlds, more biomes. It's just all that stuff like that. So yeah, I've been playing this game from like since I was an early teenager to like all the way up to an adult, and I'm still playing it today. They even had a story mode for this game, which was amazing because, you know, that's something I never expected to ever come out for Minecraft. You know, I knew it was always a popular game with like millions of sales, but I just never thought it would have its own story mode. I thought it was always just gonna be like a basically open world game where you could pretty much do whatever you want. But no, I was wrong, and they did have a story mode with like about, I think, 8 chapters. You know, they had the main chapters were, I believe, like chapter like 1 through 6 or 1 through 4 or whatever. And at the end of it, like, you had like all these bonus chapters that you could play if you had if you bought the DLC. So yeah, you can pretty much say that me and Minecraft have gone a pretty long way. So last year, I believe, in E3, they released a trailer for this game called Minecraft Dungeons. So basically what this game consisted of is you and a few friends go through all these little temples, and I don't even know, it was pretty much just a hack and slash game from what I saw. I didn't really see that there was any goal towards it yet because they didn't want to really spoil anything. It was only until I actually played the game that I actually understood and actually began to love how this game works. And I have to say, honestly, it is a very, very fun game to play, even if you're alone. Albeit challenging, but still pretty fun. So the way this game starts is basically a little, I guess a young illager was trying to fit in with all these, I guess, villagers. And they started, like, they didn't really treat him right, you know, they were treating him like the bad guy, you know, they basically treated him like crap. So as he was going away, he stumbled upon this cave, and he found, I guess, this thing called the Heart of Ender. I don't know what it was. So he ended up turning into like a staff where he begins to rule the world. And he starts to make all those villagers that treat him like shit bow to him. So basically he was sending out like all these pillagers to wipe out all these villages and, you know, just gain pretty much control of the entire overworld. So it's your job as the new hero to stop him. So basically this whole story is about a kid who didn't feel loved, and now he hates everyone, and now he's evil. So pretty much all you have to do is, you know, travel through all these different lands and stop the illager army from like basically taking over the entire world. You know, you have to stop them from taking over villages, destroying them, taking over the mines where they actually built those little redstone monsters that they have, and so on and so forth. So after a few hours of gameplay, you will end up at his castle where you pretty much have to chase him down and, you know, pretty much end the game. The castle mainly consists of 2 parts. The first one is basically just I guess the lower parts of the castle where you just have to take out all the guards, and you're pretty much throughout these 2 parts of the game, you're basically chasing him down. So eventually you have to take him out. He's not really much of a tough boss depending on what kind of gear that you have. But yeah, he's tough, like, nonetheless. But that is not until the second phase of the boss battle comes out, which is basically the Heart of Ender. So this is when shit actually gets real. So the Heart of Ender is like basically this giant version, or like this spider version of an Enderman, which is like extremely powerful. He blasts like these little lasers in 4 directions. And like if you land on, or like if you manage to be hit by one of them, it takes away most of your health. So you have to like think very strategically how you're gonna beat him. When I faced him for the first time, it took me about 2 tries. And the sucky thing about doing these attempts is that if you run out of lives, you have to start from the very beginning of the level. For those of you who haven't played this game, you probably would think, okay, that's not too bad, right? No. These levels are extremely long. It takes you maybe about 20 minutes to reach the end. It takes even longer when you are in the castle. And this is mainly because that you have to face a bunch of illagers. So yeah, if you want to take this final boss down, make sure you're prepared before you get in. Because trust me, even on the easiest difficulty, it is still pretty hard. So the way the leveling system works is that in each level they have like different tiers of difficulty. So sometimes the higher the tier, basically the harder the enemies are going to be to kill. And it's all based on your power level that you have. So the way the power levels work is basically your equipment. So with all the equipments that are in this game, such as swords, armor, and artifacts, they all have a specific level number. And of course they will have like other swords that are a lot stronger, but like, you know, you can have the same type of sword with a higher level. But the way it works is that it counts all those levels up and it averages all of them out, and that's what your power level is. So really, depending on how high your power level is, that's what your difficulty is going to be. Of course you could go higher than that to get, you know, higher tier items, but it's not really worth it since all the enemies are a lot stronger and they hit much harder and their durability is insane. Each level tier has its own set of items that you can collect. Depending on what tier you are, like let's say you're on the maximum tier, of course you're going to find like the strongest items. But if you're going to lower difficulty, you're obviously going to get lower tier items. So for example, let's say if you're on tier 3, it will tell you that you can gain weapons with a power level of 20 to like 27. So yeah, it has like a limit to what you can collect. Of course, you are going to get really low tier weapons in the first difficulty of this game. The main difficulties are Default, Adventure, and Apocalypse mode. So the default mode is basically like the beginner level, where it basically helps you get used to the game, how the game works, how the weapons can be used and everything. But if you want to get to a higher level such as Adventure or Apocalypse mode, you actually can't because they are locked. The only way to unlock them is to beat the Arch Illager on that difficulty. Meaning that to unlock Adventure mode, you have to defeat the Arch Illager on default mode, and to get the Apocalypse mode, you have to defeat the Arch Illager in Adventure mode. So basically you are climbing up the ladder for the difficulty. So I am currently on Adventure mode, and honestly it's not that hard. The enemies do hit a little bit harder, but you do get amazingly powerful weapons, believe it or not. Like weapons that would outshine the other ones from default mode. So the higher the power level a weapon has, the bigger the hit points they're going to be. And what makes this better is that every single time you level up, you get an enchantment point. And when you use that enchantment point, you could actually make your weapons a lot powerful, obviously. So there are a lot of enchantment things you can use. A lot different from the base Minecraft game. One of the best ones I use is probably Deflection. So basically you could use that on your armor. You are pretty much going to face a lot of projectile-based enemies, which are mainly skeletons and crossbow illagers. So each enchantment can be upgraded 3 times. Depending if it's a regular enchantment, it'll take about maybe 6 enchantment points. But if you are going for the powerful enchantments, they're going to be a little bit higher. And it should pretty much be in your best interest to upgrade the enchantments that you want to its maximum potential. Like me personally, when I use armor, I make sure they have a reflection enchantment on it because there are so many projectile enemies, like I said. And, you know, you could project pretty much most of them if you upgraded them to its max. So basically what this deflection does, it actually pretty much, like let's say a skeleton throws an arrow at you, it'll go straight back at him with the same amount of hit points. So let's say you're surrounded by nothing but skeletons, you could actually deflect most of them and you could probably have a huge advantage. But there are other enchantments out there that are way more powerful than that. There's one that I like to use called Committed. So basically the Committed enchantment goes with your melee weapons. So like let's say a pickaxe or a sword. So what this does is that when you inflict damage on a wounded enemy, the damage would be much higher. So let's say you hit a skeleton like with that has taken no damage, it'll pretty much go up to 50. But like if you manage to max out the tier of the enchantment, the second hit that you land on him will be like up to 100 or 150. So like yeah, every time you hit him a second time or more, yeah, they are pretty much screwed. I'm not going to list out every enchantment because first, this game just came out, and for those of you guys who are getting the game, I want you to discover them for yourselves. And second, it will just take too long to explain every single one of them. So besides just finding weapons in the overworld, you know, and just all these levels, you could actually go into the hub world and, you know, talk to your villagers. And every enemy that you kill, like I forgot to mention this, you do gain a lot of emeralds in this game. And the emeralds are pretty much the main currency, and you could trade them with villagers and you could get a random weapon. So depending on how high your level is, the more they're going to charge you. So like if you're on 25, they're going to charge you like 100 emeralds. It doesn't really make too much of a difference since you could really gain like 700 to 800 emeralds in each level. But yeah, it's something to note. It's pretty much an in-game loot box system, except you don't actually have to pay money for the emeralds. So the weapons that you can expect to get from the villagers are pretty basic. It's just common, rare, and unique. So far from what I've seen. I'm pretty sure there's more versions of it, but so far that's the only one I've seen. And, you know, common weapons are really not that special. I mean, yeah, they could be powerful at times, but they can only allow you to have one enchantment. The rare tier versions of the weapons could actually let you have two enchantments, like two separate ones. And the unique one is it has like its own special effect. So basically, let's say you have a sword like that is unique, it will let you have maybe more damage, or maybe it could be laced with poison. So like whenever you hit an enemy, they get poisoned and they can have damage like gradually being taken from them. I actually came across these double sights that were unique. They were like little mini sights that you could use on enemies. It was a pretty fast melee weapon, and it was laced with poison, and I powered it up like to the best that it can be, and it was amazing. It was so powerful. It basically like wiped the floor with pretty much all the enemies. As for the bows, there are a lot of variations of bows. I'll just tell you that there's a short bow, there's a long bow, there's a regular bow, there are crossbows, there are heavy crossbows, there are rapid crossbows, there are soul versions of bows. It just never ends, really. Me personally, I always go for the long bow because whenever you charge your arrow, like before you fire, you do have like a heavy amount of damage that you deal to the enemy. And you know, mix that with the like, let's say an enchantment that lets you fire more projectiles than just one, it could really be deadly. And also, not to mention that you can mix it with fireworks arrows, that could really cause a lot of damage. It could take, let's say if you're being surrounded, it could take out a number of enemies. As for the artifacts, there are quite a few. The ones I mainly use are one that actually helps you regenerate health. There are also totems that also do the same thing, but I'd rather use one that I can actually stay mobile, because with the totems you have to actually stay in place, which actually leaves you vulnerable. So yeah, it's not my preferred tactic, but I prefer the one that lets me move around a little bit more. They also have like certain different types of foods, like they will have like a bone, or like they will have like wheat, so you can have like llama partners to help you out in battle, especially wolves. I prefer llamas a little bit more because llamas, like, they could spit at the enemies and cause some pretty insane damage. For dogs, they're not fast enough, they're pretty useless to me. Like, it doesn't matter really how powerful they are because they don't even have a chance to attack because they're that slow. But by far my personal favorite artifact is a mushroom. So basically what this mushroom does, I forgot the name of it, but what it does is that when you use it, like for maybe about 10 seconds, it will allow your melee attacks to be a lot quicker. And that's probably one of the best things in this game, because most of the melee weapons that you use are slow. So sometimes it's in your best interest to use double-handed weapons so you can have a faster way of striking. Like for me personally, I go for the faster weapons because, You know, they could cause a lot of damage, especially for the sickles and the little Grim Reaper mini sights that you have in both of your hands, because they are really, really powerful. So powerful, in fact, that they don't even let the enemy attack you. And that's the downside of having slower weapons. Like, by the time you kill a zombie, or by the time you kill like an armored person, they have landed already like maybe about 4 hits on you, and you're almost dead. But really, like, the way you want your weapons to work, it's really all personal preference. Like, if you want slower but powerful weapons, go for it. But if you want to be like a ninja and pretty much kill people in rapid speed, you can do that too. So yeah, like I said, it's all personal preference. Even the armor has its own stats. Like, you know, they have different armors, like soul armor, that like whenever, like, certain artifacts require soul, so whenever you kill an enemy you get a soul. But like the armor, what it does is that it will increase the soul percentage by 100%, so you could like gather, like you could fill up the soul meter a little bit more. So that's what makes it awesome. I usually use the soul meter to use that little artifact that heals my teammates and around me, and including myself. There are other pieces of armor, such as the Mercenary Armor. That's one of my favorite ones because it has more durability. It lets you hit enemies harder, and it kind of like reduces the chances of getting hit. And what makes this cooler is that you can mix it with the deflection enchantment, which you can make yourself pretty much even more invulnerable than you already are. So yeah, armor in this game is definitely a must. If you don't have armor, you're pretty much screwed for the future. So yeah, just make sure you put that on, depending on whatever you want. Like I said, personal preference. And you guys don't have to worry about your enchantment points, because let's say you want to replace an already enchanted sword with a different type of weapon. When you do actually salvage the sword, you actually do get your enchantment points back, so you don't lose them forever, which is actually probably one of the best things in this game. So yeah, like I said, you never lose your enchantment points, so you can use those enchantment points that you got back for a different weapon. So that is probably the best feature in this game. Like, it would really suck if you actually lost those enchantment points. So now, real quickly before we end off this video, let's actually talk about the downsides of this game. First of all, most of the weapons in this game are extremely slow, and most of them, like that, yeah, they might be strong, but they are very useless. So that's why it's in everyone's best interest to use a double-handed weapon, because they are much faster and they're far more efficient. Another minor complaint that I have is that the levels are a little bit too long, especially if you're in single player, because like, you're defeating hordes of enemies alone, and that's me. I usually play alone. And it just takes forever, and you feel like you're gonna beat the level already, but you don't, so like you end up staying in the level for like another 10 minutes. So yeah, the levels are a little bit long. I wish they would have been a little bit shorter, but it's whatever, really. It's still fun either way. So as for my third complaint, while these levels are pretty long, if you lose all your lives, you have to literally start from the very, very beginning of the level. So yeah, it sucks. Like, let's say if you're already like 90% done, or if you're trying to beat the final boss and you end up dying, you literally have to go through that entire castle again. And as for the final complaint that I have is the leveling system. Yeah, so I understand in most games when you level up, the higher the level you get, the longer it's going to take to level up. That's understandable. But here in this game, it seems to just get longer, and like there's no real way to fight it. There's no double XP or anything. There's nothing like that. And even if you go to a higher level than you're supposed to, like let's say you're at power level 30 and you go to a certain level tier on an area that's like requires like level like 60, or like, you know, stuff like that, like where enemies are a lot tougher and you beat them, you don't really get a higher amount of XP for it. So that specific complaint is something I hope that they could fix, because really it just takes too long to level up. And yeah, it's like the more higher levels I reach, the more longer it's gonna take. So yeah, I'm hoping that, like, you know, if you're in a higher level than you're supposed to be and you're defeating enemies that are like extremely tough, you should at least have a slightly higher amount of XP to gain. But yeah, other than that, the game is pretty much near perfect. There's not really much to complain about. Even if you're alone, it's still pretty decent. It's not too hard if you're like just playing by yourself. But if you're playing with friends, it's probably a lot easier. But yeah, anyways, this is my take on Minecraft Dungeons. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Do you really think this game's good or not? Is it worth buying for yourself? You know, just stuff like that. If you are new, make sure to subscribe for more Minecraft Dungeons content. And once again, have a good day.